The Evergreen Media Network Studio, powered by Scott Tree Services.
Treasure Coast Connector, connecting residents and businesses of the Treasure Coast. And here's your host, Ellen Contreras.
Welcome to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras. Treasure Coast Connector is the talk show, an online community where we put a spotlight on interesting local businesses and resources, then connect them to you, the consumers in the community. Everyone has an interesting story of why they do what they do. And when we learn about what's happening in our own backyard and support local businesses, it strengthens our local economy. For information on the show, links to promos, discounts, past interviews, check out www.tcconnector.com. Now, business owners, they spend so much time, trying to increase sales, develop their business, manage costs, but it's all in an attempt to create a successful business. Now, sometimes they don't consider that corporate culture is what increases their chance for success. Joining me in the studio today is Eyad Mubaied, and he is the founder and CEO of Cultivate Culture, LLC. He is also the author of The Culture-Driven Organization, How to Create Your Desired Organizational Culture and Sustain It. He's got a lot of great things to share with us, so welcome to the show, Eyad.
Thank you, Alan. Pleasure.
Yes, I'm happy I got through that because the title of your book. No, it's the title
Yes.
of the book. And we're going to dive into corporate culture. And, there's some eye-opening statistics that you're going to share later on in the show. We're going to talk about your book. But first, I would like for you to give us a little bit of your very impressive background, your corporate background, and then what made you want to start your own business.
Yeah, certainly, and thank you. I spent about 24 years in corporate America, so I had a pleasure of working with small, big companies, public, private, domestic, international, and throughout my experience, I always had a passion for organizational culture, even though it's not necessarily what I went to school for.
Right.
And through all of that time, I discovered and created what I call the culture creation model to help me, which actually helped me throughout my career in organizations and teams that I led, how to create and sustain the culture that I wanted as a leader. And back in November, I found myself between jobs and then decided to write the book and then also create the company or founded the company, Cultivate Culture LLC. And at the same time, I went to become certified as a coach in order to help leaders really cultivate the culture they desire in their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to make sure that people understand the parallels as I see it, because you worked for large accounting firms, you worked all over the world, you traveled all over the world. From your analytic corporate accounting background, though, you saw the correlation of people with the monetary success.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
that's what also led you to dive
Absolutely.
into.
I mean, it's a passion for the topic, but also there's a lot of, and we'll talk about this today, there's a lot of benefits to good culture.
Absolutely. And so that's the next thing. So we're going to talk about, before we talk about the benefits of culture, we have to define culture. So let's go up 10,000 feet and give us an aerial overview.
Sounds good. And I'll start with a technical definition. So at least that's what I shared in my book. Culture is the manifestation of shared beliefs reflected in common behaviors. So when I typically mention that to people, they'll look at me and be like, well, what does that even mean? So the way I like to talk about it in a very, very simple way is it's the vibe, the feel that employees or participants within an organization give out. So it could be something that's internal or external, so customers can see it externally, or employees will see it among dealing with each other internally. So the way you kind of think about it is that behavior, if you go back to the technical term, that behavior has to come from somewhere, right? So if you keep going upstream to figure out where did that behavior come from, and that's what's in the book, it originates all the way from the mindset or the philosophies of the leaders.
Sure.
And then what ends up happening is that mindset, that philosophy gets integrated in a process that then gets instilled in people, and that way it becomes common behavior. Really, if you think about an example, Amazon. I mean, almost everybody uses Amazon.
Yes, let's do
So when
that.
you think of Jeff Bezos as an example, when he created Amazon in his garage, he always had
books. Amazing.
Yeah, it was all these things, and he created it in his garage, but always had this mindset of customer first. Okay, so to get it out of his mind into people so that his people will follow his leading, he actually started and created a process where he, in every meeting, he would put an empty chair that resembles the voice of the customer.
Oh, wow.
So through that, what I call process, he was able to instill that mindset in his people. Really, culture, if you take a step back and think about, okay, well, if it's the common behavior of my employees, that's what my culture is, then if that's the case, then it's so pervasive because employees touch every aspect of the organization. If we're talking about its marketing, its innovation, its products, its customers, its inventory, its sales, its legal, its HR, all of that is affected by culture because culture, by definition, is the manifestation of shared beliefs reflected in common behavior through the employees.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes people think that if they're in positions where they're not dealing with the customers directly, but they actually are.
Absolutely.
And they have to be made aware of that. They might be in marketing and doing data analysis, but still, or in accounting and,
absolutely,
reporting, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every aspect of the organization is affected by culture, and it will ultimately affect your customers, or what I call stakeholders. So it's not only customers, could be customers, vendors, regulators, whatever it is. It's people who benefit from the services of the company or the organization.
They're all interacting. Okay,
Absolutely.
So now a lot of business owners will think about their sales and their operations and things like that. And then corporate culture is an afterthought. And as I said, that is, earlier on, it's a detriment to the company. So what can you talk about that, different stats and things?
Absolutely. And before I jump into the stats, so there's this very famous saying that says, it's a quote that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Okay. So the idea behind that quote is not that people shouldn't have strategies. I mean, everybody should have a strategy for your sales, for your customers, for your employees, for whatever it is, you must have a strategy. But the idea of the quote is that when you have a strategy and add a good culture or strong culture to it, it gets multiplied, the result.
It better.
And in the same way, if you think about it in the opposite, when you have a really good strategy, it will be significantly undermined when you have a bad culture. So the idea of culture eats strategy for breakfast is not saying don't have a strategy, but it's rather have a good one, but don't just stop there. Have a good culture so that it can get multiplied.
Exactly.
There's a lot of good stats that I can mention.
And
so I'm going to read them.
quite okay. I want you to read them.
I'm going to read them and then go slowly.
Because you know why? You are a numbers person as an accountant, right? And you know what I am? I keep looking over at your beautiful wife. We have an audience today, Cindy. Remember, I always love a studio audience. Christy, we're happy to have you here. I love to take a bucket of ice water and dump it on people, not literally, but these stats, I want business owners to literally, I want this to keep them up at night. And then I want them to call you.
As a culture cultivator, not necessarily an accountant, but yes, I love math. So here are some numbers.
Please.
Okay. Per Forbes, companies with strong cultures experience 4 times increase revenue growth. Okay. Per Columbia University, strong organizational cultures are associated with 756%. So that's 7 times increase in net income growth as compared to ones that are not as strong. The next one is about employee engagement. So it's the buzzword in the HR world and in corporate America and any other corporate place. It basically resembles that quantitative number, figure, percentage to tell you how engaged your employees are or how inspired they are. Okay. Are they all in, or are they not, or if they're not, how much they're all in? So employee engagement, per Gallup, engaged employees result in, ready for this? 40% lower absenteeism, 24% lower turnover when it's a high turnover organization, let's say you're a restaurant or like in the services type of companies, and you have naturally high turnover. This will result in 59% lower turnover in a low turnover organization versus 24 lower turnover in high turnover organizations. Further, 28% less shrinkage, 70% fewer employee safety incidents, 40% fewer quality incidents or defects, 10% higher customer metrics, 17% higher productivity, 20% higher sales, 21% higher profitability. That's the whole point of it being pervasive, because it affects every single aspect of your organization.
So we just hit them in their pocketbook, in their bank balances, honestly.
Absolutely.
In their operating costs and such. So, and this covers every industry. So service, hospitality, manufacturing, customer service.
Culture is culture. It doesn't matter. It's gonna benefit you as a leader, no matter what industry you are, no matter how strong your culture is. It's still, there's room for improvement.
So you know what I know is happening right now for all of the people that are listening and watching? Okay, well, actually, the people that are watching can see your, website, your web address, but the people that are listening don't know how to get in touch with you. Okay. So please tell them right now before Cindy makes us take a break.
Yeah, that sounds good. You can reach me at www.cultivateculturellc.com. Or you can send me an email at Mubaied, that's Mubaid, at cultivateculturellc.com.
Very good. Okay, so Mubaied, Mubaid, at cultivateculturellc.com.
That's correct.
So I'm just going to say there's a lot of business owners I know that have people that would love to just have things changed up a bit in a positive way. Call them, email them. I'm just saying. And with that, we have to take a break. We will be right back.
Hey, you! Host your very own show every week at Evergreen Media Network in Vero Beach. Go live to YouTube and Facebook with up to 4 people and your very own producer. Be heard on more than 15 podcast platforms and local radio. All you have to do is show up and talk. Your guests can join from anywhere in the world. It's easy to get started with the largest podcast studio on the Treasure Coast. Contact Evergreen Media to tour the studio.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Dining and bedroom sets, occasional tables, sofas, sleeper sofas, love seats, and chairs in all the latest styles and colors from Tommy Bahama, Lexington, Hooker, Riverside, Universal, Four Seasons, Braxton Color, and Capri. We're the outdoor furniture experts and have hundreds of styles of any patio furniture you need, including a gallery of Berlin Gardens, Hollywood, and Kingsley Bait. We specialize in fire bits, outdoor rugs, umbrellas, and replacement cushions. Right now, we're having a super summer sale with lots of great markdowns and discounts on everything you need for your Florida home, including all pictures, lamps, and accessories are half price. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Don't forget to visit our outlet store directly across the street and visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Sunshine Furniture.
Big news, Treasure Coast. Your favorite mortgage team just got even better. Introducing the same trusted faces you know and love, now with Union Home Mortgage.
Hi, this is Shannon Pohl.
Hi, this is Lucy Cranker.
And these high-producing team members bring decades of experience, unwavering honesty, and hearts of gold to every home loan. And here's the best part. Same local processing, underwriting, and appraisers you rely on. Contact Union Home Mortgage.
Visit us online at shannonCpohl.com
and LucyCranker.com.
Welcome back to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras, and I'm with Eyad Mubaied. He is the founder and CEO of Cultivate Culture, LLC, and we're just diving back into this conversation because people were having a panic attack about those stats. So now we're going to go into how you help. All right. That's
Sounds
what
good.
I people need to know, that there is a solution out there. Okay. So now improving corporate culture, the tips that you have. I want to hear about when there's a startup situation or an already actively involved business.
Yep. I think the first thing, and even following the concepts within the book, the first step is really self-awareness to me. Just as a leader, you need to know and believe that you're not perfect, and it's okay not to be perfect.
Sure.
The question is, well, what are we going to do about it? What's going to be next? Then the next one is open your eyes to the status of your company or organization, or even the team that you're leading. If you know, have you done any assessments? Have you looked at employee engagements? Is there any issues, problems? People are talking about each other behind their backs. You have high turnover. You have all kinds of signs around you. Open your eyes to really see, oh, wait, there's something here I need to do about, right? And not just continue. The next one is you have to believe that you need to commit to invest. And when I say invest, I choose my words carefully. It is going to be a cost of not only money,
And
but time. But if you just throw cost out with no return, then that's an expense. But an investment, you're going to get a lot of return, as we discussed with all the stats.
Yeah.
Another stat that I remembered, any organization that spends $1 on leadership training, which goes to your culture, right, will actually get $7 in return.
That's
back.
a
That's a 7 to 1
ROI.
rate of return, which is amazing. Then once you go through all those three things, think about it, self-awareness, also awareness of where your organization is, and you decide that you're going to invest, value or worth it, give me a call, right? And the idea here is, I heard this proverb many years ago, and it's something that I use in my life. A man or woman with a multitude of counselors never fails in battle.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay for you to give somebody a call. You know, worst case scenarios, I'm going to say, I can't help you, but I know I can. So give me a call. And at the same time, no matter what we do, one thing you have to keep in mind, you as a leader have to lead by example.
Right.
So if you want a culture of, let's say, respect, you can't be yelling and screaming at your employees, right? It's just not going to work. But
And
that's
I've
what
walked
happens.
in on that once. Literally walked in
remember
when
the
I was
story.
in recruiting and staffing. I walked right back out. But that is, you made a very good point. And so the thing is that you have this book, okay? And it's available on Amazon, but people can go to cultivateculturellc.com. I read the book, amazing book, very helpful, a lot of really good stories where people can identify themselves and their company. And wow, this is really cool.
Absolutely.
And so people, the business owners, can start with that.
Absolutely.
And then you have assessments, you have courses that they could take, right? But then I think for me, honestly, the true value is that's the first step. They're educating themselves. They're preparing themselves for you and their team and their employees. And then you come in. You know what I mean? That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because depending on how big the corporation or the organization is, I mean, maybe your revenue is, I don't know, $100,000 a year or $50,000. And, you know, it's very little, but you are still determined because your mindset as a leader is, I need to improve. I need things to get better. I mean, the book, ebook, I think on Amazon now is $8.99. So, I mean, that's not a big, cost. And then you'll get the return back. We also have our online courses that are already set, and they're $250, I think, is the, the 6 sessions, which is very reasonable. But once you get a larger organization, now you have, more than 5, 10, 20, 100, 1,000 employees. Okay, now you need a little bit more help.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
when you would call me.
Yes.
So the process of once you call me, I ask a lot of questions. I mean, without knowing the facts, I can't help you. So I ask a lot of questions. We dig into the root cause of why your culture is the way it is today, figure out where you want your culture to be, and then put a plan together, a step-by-step implementation. And part of our services, including all of that. So we do coaching, we do workshops, I do one-on-one coaching or multiple people coaching, including the workshops, public speaking or private customized speaking. And then we figure it out together and we walk the journey. My differentiator is because of I'm not an organizational psychologist by trade. I actually know how the process and the business works.
Because you lived it.
Because I lived it for 24 years. I know exactly how the processes work, and then be able to help you take and define your mindset, your philosophy, your culture that you want, embed it and integrate it into a process, then be able to train your people on it. Really, that's our biggest differentiation. We walk through the journey with you. We don't just show up, give you a couple of recommendations, and then leave. Now, we actually walk through it. We help you if I have to read policies, give you ideas of policies or systems, whatever it is. We walk through it all in the confines of culture.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And then, of course, you circle back and check in at certain intervals of time after working with a company to make sure that things are still very
We call it the pruning part of our services, which is after you're done and your culture is where you want it to be, there's always going to be outside factors or inside factors, change in leadership, something you're buying a company, whatever it is, that needs your culture to just, if it's your goal, you're going to have to sustain it. This is not a one and done. That's why we call it a journey. Yeah, absolutely. And so your website is chock full of information. So again, cultivateculturellc.com. And even your resume is on there because this is another thing you alluded to, but I really want to cement this point is when you were at KPMG, that's not a small company. There's many, many layers of management and offices all over the world and all of that. So you were leading your department. So you wanted to shine. So it wasn't just about doing the numbers. It was about making sure you knew how to lead. Absolutely. And it's seeing also many companies. I mean, every year when I was at KPMG, I would see 10 to 20 different companies because I'm the external auditor outsider, but I would come in. I had to understand their processes. I had to understand how they do not only their accounting, but everything else as far as transactional. And that's something that I think is a differentiator. I understand how people and how processes actually work. So therefore, I'm able to come in and tell you, if you want a respectful culture or highest ethical and integrity culture, okay, well, how would we now take it from theory into an actual process and implement it into people? That's a differentiator for us.
And that's how you know how to deliver the ROI. So you have full confidence that when someone says, okay, this is our plan, this is the cost, they sign on the dotted line and you're like, not only am I going to bring it, but you're going to be like thrilled that I've been here.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's fantastic. And we have a couple of minutes. Cindy, do you want to give me a couple? We have 2. All right. We have 2. Okay. So before we wrap up, because you talked about being a keynote speaker, that was another thing. So if other people need you for speaking, and then, before we wrap up, what do you want to say?
Thank you, first and foremost, for this time. This is absolutely a pleasure. I think it was 3 weeks ago that we met, and here we are. So this is fantastic. Typically, when I go up to any leader, I really ask them this question, and I say, well, tell me the cost of your payroll. And they say, okay, it's X, or they show me financials. And then I say, okay, well, tell me the cost of your inventory or sales or whatever the number is. And they point me to financials or the CFO. And then I pause and I say, well, do you know the cost of your culture? That is when I see the wheels turning and they're like, oh, I didn't think of that before. Let me give you a call. That's when they give me a call. So the idea behind all of it is really culture has a cost. We not only want to walk on a journey with you to minimize that cost, we want to turn it into a competitive advantage.
I love that. So then, and that's another thing is when a company really gets things right, then not only do their sales skyrocket and their market share increases, but then they don't have to work as hard to recruit. They have people throwing themselves to get into that company to work for that company.
That's the competitive advantage that we're talking about.
Yeah, so that would be cultivateculturellc.com. I'm telling you, I really, truly, I know so many businesses that, need you. And I know within just a few months, you're going to be like, it's going to be hard to get a hold of you.
We are thrilled.
Yeah,
we have a vision to cultivate every organization's culture for the good of humanity. So we can't wait.
And not only are you on the Treasure Coast, but you will work with people not only nationally, but internationally too.
I have a customer currently in the United Arab Emirates. And when we do calls on Zoom, 2 out of the 4 people are in the UAE, 1 in India and 1 in the UK. So thanks to Zoom and other types of instruments and tools, we can work with anybody.
We have mobile workers. And with that, thank you, Eyad Mubaied, for being here. My name is Ellen Contreras, host of Treasure Coast Connector. Until next week, I miss you already.